watch that decline.
Very cool.
What's that?
We're currently hosting.
Hello everybody,
we have
Brook from Stickmen Media here with Margaret and Lincoln, and today we're actually talking about, get on camera you
Yeah,
two.
just checking I am in there.
Get in shot.
If you want to move back a little bit, Brook, that would probably be
This
quite
is
helpful.
basically what happens when nobody prepares until the last minute, but here we are.
Do you want to move back a wee bit, then we can move in?
I am back, you need to move in. If I move back much further I can't see the controls, and that's always difficult for me.
Just gotta watch that laptop doesn't fall off that table too.
Yes, good point. Pushed right over the edge. Alright, back to our introduction. So, Brook from Stickmen Media, we're streaming the development of our game After the Light, a zombie horror game developed in Unreal Engine. You might have just noticed we were previously hosting Auroral Games, which those guys, two guys doing a game called Edelmist in Unreal Engine, and doing some really nice looking stuff, I have to say. But anyway, today we've got Lincoln on the show, and he is talking about the development of our final cave. This is the boss level cave at the very end. So if I start that video running.
Video running now, and I'm going from that screen, not this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always confusing.
If you get confused and go to this screen, then you're lost.
So I think the video today might be broken up. I think I had several small half an hour long segments that I recorded, so we might chop and change depending on what order they're in. But there's a little bit of stuff with working on this boss cave, and a little bit of stuff, I think from memory, working in blueprints on some exploding barrels, trying to get a nice explosion effect on a barrel that basically gives off damage to nearby barrels and sets those off, so it's like a chain reaction thing. At the moment though on the screen it's showing, basically there's a boss cave that I'd already had that was mocked up, that I was sort of testing with, and always had an eye towards coming back to it and basically redesigning it. So what am I doing here? Let's have a look. I'm in Maya. Oh yeah, right, so at this point I've exported there's basically one big mesh that the cave is made up of, which you'll see a lot of ugly backside faces on stuff where they've just been merged together.
Backside faces? That sounds
Backside
wrong.
faces, yeah.
That's going to be gross.
But that's obviously the mesh straight out of that pack that you got.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. With a lot of tweaks and bits added and merged into it. But yeah, you can see I'm flying inside the Maya model. Now, what was I doing here? Oh, that's right. This is the original mesh, and originally the room had a big platform in the middle, and the idea was that you came in, we had just used one of the generic static meshes from one of the Epic Games packs. I think it might have been Soul Cave. It was like a big platform, and it was kind of a mock-up. It was always there for mock-up's sake. So I finally got the chance, right, we'll go back and rethink this level and get rid of that asset. And the idea was to carve a big hole out of the floor, and instead of coming into the room and you kind of have to work your way up onto a platform to the boss fight, that maybe you have to work your way down some stairs to a kind of a sunken area. And Sergi had the idea that maybe as you're fighting your way down, you're taking on waves of zombies and attackers, and then you finally get to the sort of the bottom of this area, and the boss comes down to meet you, and he swings his sword and smashes the floor because he's a bit annoyed at you.
Mm-hmm.
And the floor collapses, and then you drop down another shaft and come out into the final boss fight room where it's just you and the boss, no other minions, and it's quite a dark room, and there'll be just you and him. And the trick with that room will be that there'll be lots of pillars,
mm-hmm.
and it's really low light levels, and you'll see the outline of him in the fog, and he'll be walking between pillars, and then he starts dragging his sword along the ground, and you get sparks coming off the sword, and this goes back to the whole animation stuff that you were setting up. So also, really this room's like a lead in to the final fight, where you really see him for the first time, and he's spawning lots of stuff at you, and Yeah.
Yes, that's
And-
not the last of the zombies, because as he's dragging his sword, he's actually, what that's doing is actually causing zombies to
Yeah, and it
rise
might
up
be,
around it.
yeah. Right in the bottom level, it might be that he does spawn a couple. Sorry. Yeah. So all I'm doing here is, you can see it's quite time consuming, but I had to go right through this big mesh, and I'm just selecting faces and trying to carve off a sensible chunk of ground that I can then insert mesh into. And because the mesh is a little bit ugly, the way that it was fabricated, it was just a bunch of different rocks kind of put together and faces cut off them and things like that. So it really is clean-up phase. Going in, zoomed right in, trying to get the faces that are protruding out of the side wall, and just like a big pair of scissors, just cutting off all of the excess. So this might take quite a while here, because I remember it took me, it felt like it took hours, but it probably was only half an hour. But when you're staring at a screen, selecting individual triangles one by one,
Yeah.
it feels like it takes much longer.
It might take a long time, but I think we're running at like 4.3
Yeah.
times speed, so we'll get through it fairly quick.
But I guess the idea is use the meshes that we've got, but I'm just customising them in a way that I can utilise them. And the plan is to go in, and then I'll add in some rocks and bring the levels down, maybe in a flight of stairs, and then just see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah. See where this goes to.
Okay, so we still have time to do lots of polish and remove a lot of these faces that you'll never see, right, at some point?
Yeah, and it's a case of how we do that, whether we have to manually go in, or I think Unreal's got the capability to, at some point, just ignore them, rather than having to actually delete them, but I'm not sure on that yet.
Okay.
So this is probably the boring part of the video for sure.
You mean it gets more fun?
Yeah, it should do.
It's pretty quiet at the moment.
Clicking on triangles.
Well, Brook's so bored he's texting.
I'm actually texting a viewer, so not everybody uses the message window.
Can't be far to go now. I've basically had to do a full circuit of this big room. I guess the other thing I'm mindful when I'm doing this is, once I get rid of all of these faces and start adding stuff in, is how do we make this room interesting? And I was kind of thinking you'd come down into like an amphitheatre almost, and maybe there's collapsed rocks that have fallen flat. I haven't fully polished this cave yet. I've done, since this video, I've done a little bit to it. But I am wondering whether we need to put in a big throne like in the concept art. But that would probably involve
You
getting
can't, because it's on the wrong side.
wrong side of the
big
door.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the big throne is on the other side of that door.
The one thing that I'll be struggling with is just to make sure that this feels like it's almost the final room. Maybe it's his tomb. So at the moment,
It is supposed to be the tomb of King Leon that you actually leave through.
yeah. At the moment, you'll see probably that I go in and I add like a throne in a little niche area. But it's debatable whether maybe we need to change that out and make it like a proper tomb. Originally, the idea was you come down and there's lots of gold objects and maybe a tomb made of some kind of gleaming white stone, marble,
yeah.
alabaster or something that doesn't feel like the rest of the textures in the area or any of the caves. Maybe it should feel a bit more luxurious, and something like white marble would really stand out as a bit special.
A bit more special, yes, because he was genuinely hated. But he was
deserves special then.
he was a conqueror king, so.
So what the fuck is going on in that bottom right hand corner there? So we've
yeah.
got a scene of the ceiling with a little bit of Lincoln twitching
Well,
at 6 times
I
speed.
don't know if they can see it on the Twitch stream, because that's just my video.
You can just see it in the corner. Fucking
yeah.
hilarious.
And right in behind there. Yeah, I didn't realise I had the webcam on my machine actually enabled, and it was recording the roof. You might even
This is
see
good.
the top of my head at times.
We do, but hopefully you can
Oh,
only
and
see a
there's
little
Sergi
bit
running
of
past.
He's a
No,
speedy
it's
fella.
Diego back. Hilarious. But probably Twitch viewers can't see it. Which is disappointing because it's actually funny.
Can't be far to go now. So many triangles.
So many triangles.
I probably could have. I'm sure there's 3D modelers out there going, why is he doing it the hard way? But when you're a 2D artist who kind of fudges his way through 3D and then does pretty much all this other stuff, so you just find the way that works for you. I know that I probably could have looked at the side view of the model and just dragged a rectangle around, the bottom area and just deleted a whole bunch of stuff, but then I would have...
You would have ended up with holes.
I would have, lost more than I wanted to lose. I would have had to,
Nobody wants that.
No, you don't want to lose too much. So the video now, I'm probably at the pedantic stage where I'm like, oh, it's pretty good, but I could be more fussy.
I'm sure you've changed your mind on that bit, because I'm pretty sure I saw you delete it before, but you've done an undo at some point.
I've lost track of all those triangles. It's just zeros and ones, really.
Now, hopefully shortly it'll make sense why I'm doing this. To me, if no one else.
Woman in a red dress.
Yeah. Blonde, redhead, brunette. No, blonde, brunette, redhead.
The Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can we say about this cave?
Wow, in and out. 4.
So there are a
It's
lot of polys in
triangulary.
there. A lot of polys in there when you look at it without subtracting the back faces. But as I understand it, it's not such an issue with the engine, Unreal Engine. It's very good at actually colouring the faces that you don't need to do.
No, that's what I've from reading as well. It seems like when you get to that point of starting to get close to packaging it, you can easily cull that stuff out.
Yeah.
Just tell it to ignore them, basically.
And essentially I don't believe there's even any runtime time taken to do that with the things that you can never see in a cave, because it will actually build space partitioning trees that can determine that these faces will never be seen.
Yeah.
So they're not even under consideration when they're in there.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. Which does sort of make this job easier, so you can be as untidy as you like.
Well, yeah, it's kind of good for
shoving
me,
rocks
like if I'm bashing together an environment, not to be totally freaking out over poly count and stuff. Except for my 4K mushrooms. They haven't even changed.
It's not as much poly count, but it's huge texture for a little mushroom.
Yeah. But I guess you might see once I start doing stuff that my build process at the moment for this kind of organic cave stuff is very much a case of just grab an item and slap it in somewhere and just basically rotate it and rotate your viewer position and just look at how stuff looks organically, rather than having a neatly drawn pencil sketch of cave goes here, I'm going to have this here, and it can't. When it's organic like this, you almost have to do stuff on the fly.
Yeah. And you are the art guy rather than the tech guy, so really it's up to the tech guys to come in and make sure that your art vision is preserved after you've actually finished with it. So I guess we'll have a round of that at some point, of some optimizations. Do you remember when we were discussing the other day the stretching of textures? So you're grabbing rocks, moving them, and occasionally scaling them, and you end up with stretched textures on things. It was one thing watching that Auroral Games stream. Thank you. I've forgotten the word stream, even where I am. But yeah, basically she was grabbing and scaling things without much concern for the stretching of textures. I guess it was fairly controlled. She wasn't doing it in any huge way. She wasn't making something twice the size or anything. But so I wonder how much of genuine...
I think I've sort of found that in here as well. If you can get away with scaling stuff to a certain point, it's only if you scale it up 5,000%, just from a rock that's effectively as big as, let's say, a basketball. If you were scaling it up to the size of this whole room, that's when stuff starts to get ugly in there. It seems to handle it quite well.
Yeah.
And again, it depends where it is. If you're in a cave where there's a dark corner over there and you can barely even see in that corner and you just want to put a large silhouette, then you just grabbing something and stretching it isn't really going to matter because you're not going to see it. But if it's right, the bits that I've found that really matter is because our game, you're not actually walking around the environment being VR, you're standing still and you can't teleport yet. You're very much, the biggest amount of detail is going to be in that sort of 2 metre radius near you.
Yeah.
And that's where you really notice the stuff that's got blown out textures.
So we've seen stretch textures in all the best games anyway. I mean, you stretch textures.
It's just
Skyrim
nice if you can have put the ugly stuff far away from you, and keep. And what I'll probably do later, even if there's any caves where I notice something like that, is I'll just grab a nice highly detailed rock. If let's say the floor underneath your feet is I've badly placed a mesh there that's got slight stretching or something, then I'll just grab another rock, place it right under your feet and hide it, and then maybe merge that in. But it's a bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
So effectively you're standing on two meshes, one's 2 millimetre higher than the other one, it's just hiding it. But yeah, programmatically that might be a no-no.
We'll have to find out when we get around to optimization.
Yeah.
Rookies are us.
So you can see on the screen now that I've obviously re-imported the mesh out of Maya back into Unreal and started setting it up. I think the video has just jumped forward big time because, as I was saying, there's 3 or 4 small half an hour long videos. So, I don't know.
No. I did them all in order, so this should be in order. In time order.
Alright.
So I think you just got distracted.
No, that's right. What I've done now is that platform that I was talking about. It has actually jumped forward in time, but we'll see in a sec. I think I mentioned that this main room you come into, there's going to be a circular floor area that King Leon comes and smashes his sword on, and it collapses. So as I was building it, I realised I needed some kind of ideally circular floor area. So I've taken this mesh back into Maya again, and I think I was combining 4 segments to make one large circular one. You can see I play around a bit, but the end goal here is I'm trying to get those 4 segments that make the pie, convert them to one mesh, and then import it back into Unreal. So I've just got a floor disk, which is there. You can see those tiles have been merged, and now I've got like a dais that can be at the bottom, and it's almost like a little mini fighting pit.
Yep.
And the tricky part with having, I guess this is an issue that most environmental people come across. If you're using assets that are quite square and you're trying to marry them up to something that's circular, it's a bit of a pain. So you can see me here just trying to figure out, right, how am I going to get the bottom of these stairs to kind of look like they seamlessly blend into this fighting disc. We'll call it fighting disc.
All right.
2.0.
You're laying your little blocks of chocolate.
Yeah, really it is. It's just like lying out the chocolate, and then I'm moving that one in, and I'll rotate it eventually. There we go. And I'm trying to get what feels like a natural progression down the stairs onto a platform, onto the disc, and then what I anticipate doing is any nasty little edges you can just hide with a rock.
Yeah.
Grab a big rock, bang it in there.
So talk about how your 2D experience must be really fucking helpful with this, but presumably doing this is going to make some big impacts on the way you do your 2D stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely. I guess because I've always been interested in matte painting anyway.
Yeah. You were saying
sort of, now that I'm getting a grips, I'm finding that for my personal painting projects, I tend to now want to model a base environment in something like Unreal, because that allows me to generate a base render.
Yeah.
So like even something like that, if I was to stop moving my gun around and find a nice compositional shot,
yeah,
then I can, within Unreal, you can just export a render,
Yeah.
a 2D render of, like, let's say that looked beautiful, and I was like, I can do a painting with this.
Yeah.
Export the render and then take it into Photoshop and start going over the top of that. And the beauty of having, even if it's only a basic render, the beauty is that all the light information's there.
Yeah, you know where the shadows are and all the
Yeah,
rest of it.
so if the first step, I guess, is finding a nice composition, and then you would position a couple of light sources and play around with it, and like you said, find a layout where, let's say, you wanted some strong light in the foreground and long car shadows or whatever you were going for. You could position those, take a quick render, go into Photoshop, and you've already got the groundwork done. There's some, even if you grayscale it and started repainting it in grayscale, all the light information's there, the lights and the darks and where the shadows are. And
Yeah, for sure. So apart from a technical approach, like doing it, because it seems like that's really convenient, does it change the way you actually look at things? So how you perceive an environment?
yeah, I think it can do. You just sort of, you start to get an affinity, especially doing something like this, like a cave where it's large organic rocks and things, and you're trying to merge them with things that are a bit more solid, like steps and pillars. You start to sort of acclimatise to how stuff merges.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think it does help.
Because it's been a while since, well, how long since you've done just a straightforward 2D piece of art?
A little while. Yeah, a little while.
Be interesting to see
Probably
how
our
it feels when you do it
caricatures
again,
was the
eh?
last one.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of something substantial like a...
Yeah,
something
not
with an
like
environment.
at the moment. I'm always trying to have at least one personal project on the go, even if it's just something that you're chipping away at an hour or so here and there. And lately, again, probably because my interest is more in the matte painting realm of things, I tend to, for the longest time, I've tended to start with either a photographic reference or a base render. I mean, sometimes I'll just start with a grayscale thumbnail, which is just hand painted, and then look for references and models to put into that. But because my end goal normally is more leaning towards photorealism and high image, high pixel sizes, I guess you say, like. Whereas a normal concept artist they might start off with an 800 by 600 pixel, image size, and they might not up-res a hell of a lot. They might go up to 2,000 pixels wide max, sort of thing, just for a standard piece of concept painting.
Yep.
Some of my ones, they might start out at 1024 pixels wide, but by the time I end, it's in the vicinity of 6,000 pixels wide. So they're quite big images. And that's mainly because, like the one I'm doing at the moment is like a sort of futuristic sci-fi, cyberpunky scene, and the base to that was done purely in Unreal, mainly because I wanted to practice Unreal, but also wanted a matte painting project. And it's the married. It's like a marriage made in heaven. If you can get a base render in less than an hour, if you can get a base render that's got all your lighting information, that's gold. Because it's, normally it could take you several hours to get all that done by hand. Whereas, you can reposition stuff. And the real beauty of it is once you got your base render, you suddenly go, oh, actually I don't like where that light is. You just open it and move the light bulb and re-render, as opposed to having to spend an hour repainting stuff. It's much quicker.
So I just saw you actually shooting with a teddy bear there. Perhaps we should explain why there's a teddy bear.
So there's actually, with the player controller that Diego's set up, you can toggle, you roll your wheel mouse and you can toggle between the pistol, the crossbow, and whatever, like
grenade launcher.
Grenade launcher, which we haven't made yet. So for temporarily, he's put a stuffed teddy bear in the position of the gun, so you can shoot zombies with the teddy bear, which is kind of nice. It's kind of like that saying, killing someone with kindness, and the guy we're
going to whack you with a teddy bear.
He'd named his sword Kindness.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know why we're swapping it out for a gun though. I like the teddy bear.
So at the moment what I'm doing here is, you know how I mentioned there was going to be a lower level and you drop down a shaft, and that was the purpose of that disc that I was building. The fight disc was to be the capping. So the idea is once the floor smashes, you fall down a shaft and you come out into another room which maybe it's not as big and it's quite dark. So you can see how I've got these pillars, and it's like a little, almost like just a cylindrical shaft that I've fabricated out of one rock. All I've done is grab one rock, scaled it up, duplicated it, and made like a little circular wall, and that's effectively my shaft, and then expanded on that and made like a little room below. So
Okay.
the idea is that floor capping will be up there. It's a bit hard to see in this view, but what I'm actually doing there is I'm trying to match the lighting between the two rooms. So there's an upper room and a lower room and a shaft between them.
Yeah.
And I already had the upper room mostly built with, you know, some point lights and things. So the biggest disconnect you can have jumping between two rooms is if, in this scenario, if you dropped down the shaft and then started on that level and you're standing there in VR and you looked up and the lighting felt different, and let's say it was more of a yellowy glow instead of a reddish glow, it's like an instant disconnect where it doesn't really flow.
Yeah.
So you probably see I was at the bottom cave looking up the shaft in VR, which I'll probably do in a second, and I'm looking at the lighting up there and going okay, and then I'll go back up to the top and I'll play with the lighting, and because it's actually two separate level files at the moment, so I'm jumping back and forth between the two. And
So the fall's not a smooth transition from one to the other, it's a fade in, fade out.
yeah, it will have to be, because in VR, as you can imagine, if you're standing in VR and you suddenly had a 30-foot drop, you'd have some people would probably get black eyes or something. They'll trip over, or so we'll have to do a subtle fade out of the upper level as he smashes the floor. Maybe there's a 1 second where you see the floor breaking and collapsing and start to fall in.
Yeah.
And then as you just start to fall, maybe it fades to black and stops.
It saves you.
Gives you a couple seconds, then loads. Maybe.
Yeah.
We haven't thought that through fully yet.
So one of the things that'll be down here, because you've got it quite dark at the moment, but one of the things that will be down here is the entrance to the Halls of the Dead, right? So
Yeah.
there will be an ornate doorway somewhere.
When I was recording this, I probably forgot to have my camera up so that the viewers could see, unfortunately.
There's you doing Facebooking.
Facebook.
Okay. Lincoln's Facebook. You didn't type in any passwords or anything while you were on
No,
there?
I would have just
More Facebook.
it's updating
no.
now. Our Twitch. Not Twitch.
Instagram.
Instagram. Updating
Thank
our
you.
Instagram. Very good.
Right, so...
People may have seen there Lincoln's anatomical reference model sitting on his desk with 2 sticky eyeballs, 2 googly eyes. One of the cute things you get to see when you're here.
It's a shame
Oh yeah,
I
that's
di-
pretty dark.
That's a shame. It's better in that view. You can kind of see, but effectively the idea is that
Ooh, spooky.
There's King Leon.
behind those pillars
Floating.
there'll be some atmospheric haze, and the idea is it would be almost partially backlit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the moment, I think I was just testing out. I've got a vague recollection.
That haze works out quite well because when you walk through that door, and we won't be doing this in the game, but on the other side of that door is a river, a bridge crossing a large body of water,
Right.
basically, and it's hazy. There's mist, and the Halls of the Dead is a big mansion in the distance.
Yep.
And it looks reasonably close, but you can walk for hours without seeing it.
Now,
Without getting there, rather.
I believe we've switched videos to where I started working on the barrels.
Aha!
So,
Now the barrels was fun, right?
yeah, it was quite interesting.
You got to do some blueprinting. You got to have some.
So the idea here is we're trying to make barrels that explode, but a little bit more than just go boom. There's the end goal is we want a barrel that when you shoot it, it catches on fire, starts burning, and as it's burning, it's dealing damage to the barrel. It gets to a point where, okay, I'm damaged enough, I'm going to go kablooey.
Yep.
Barrel goes blammo, or kablooey.
Well, no,
And
yeah.
at that point of going,
Completely
Socko,
screwed that
pow.
up.
at that point of exploding, it deals damage to a radius within a proximity. So while it's
I can just see him fighting over a blueprint. Going,
Yeah.
Why did that go bluey? I wanted it to go blammo.
So initially you think, oh, make a barrel explode. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. But there's a few little steps there, and we've pretty much got there. But at this stage in the video, what I was doing was I had actually imported a particle fire explosion. But the joy of importing stuff sometimes is it breaks. So what you see here is I'm going into the blueprint for, I think it's the particle fire system.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm trying to test it, but it looks awful because what happens when you import, the blueprint loses its connection to a lot of the elements like textures and all the little bits and pieces. There'll be materials and material instances all referenced in the blueprint. And if it loses connection to those, or if you don't import those with it, then you have to pretty much recreate it all. So this is, I can't remember the proper technical term for this interface, but it's basically like a little particle editor. So you can see those stacks of text, each one is an element of the particle emitter.
Okay.
So that I can't quite read it from here, I might need to wear my glasses. One, for example, might be for the sparks, and there might be another one for a glow on the ground, and another one for the actual flames, and another one for so a flickering light source or something, and it's all mashed together.
Okay. Here you're going through some.
You probably see that was probably Unreal's forums. I was trying to find a solution to how to fix the particle system. Yeah, I can almost feel my pain as I was doing this. I was looking at, because that box at the top left where there was that big square kind of going like that, what it should be showing you is a nice explosion.
Ah, right.
You'll see in a second once it's fixed. What it does is give you a looping explosion that you can see, and as you edit the particle effects, it changes it so you can kind of see what you're getting.
Okay.
So it takes a while to import all these. These are all the materials. You'll see there I'm migrating individual materials, textures and a bunch of stuff to a new folder, and then taking it across into our project. Right, here you go. Now,
Was that the heat haze or the smoke?
so you can see elements of it coming together now. So the box at the top left starts to look like an explosion.
Okay.
And as I plug in all these elements, it starts coming back to life. And it's purely because it's all just broken.
Oh, dead air again.
Keep talking, for fuck's sake.
Maggle,
Say
swear.
something. I did. I didn't even have to be asked. But you don't really want me to start on that roll, do
No.
you? Because you get shy about swearing on Twitch.
I don't
for
get
some
shy about swearing.
obscure reason. Yeah, you do.
I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I do not.
You get all like, oh, worried about it. Because, like,
I am
Twitch
unconcerned
watchers
about your
hate
swearing on
We know that
Twitch.
Twitch is a clean place.
Well, in some places it is. The two streams I did watch yesterday, or the two streams I had a look at, one was Anna Carolina doing her modelling, and the other one was Auroral Games doing the Edelmist level
Well, I'm
design.
sure they're lovely people.
I don't think I heard a single swear word from either of them.
Possibly not.
So this is why we don't get hosted.
I don't think that's quite right.
No. Well, we are auto-hosted by Enter Dreamland, but then he swears quite a lot on his
There you go.
thing as well.
You
So I think
need
that's
one of those,
probably what makes
like
the difference.
a bleeper,
We do need a bleeping thing.
one that it's live though, so you need to be able to. If there was a 2-second delay, you could go pause, rewind, bleep.
We just need a little AI that understands the words and the context.
Someone that knows what you're about to say.
You just switch language though. We'd be all Kankamongol and Benshod and
Yeah. Well,
Fool
that
you.
is the joy of...
Pig Latin.
Yep, anything really.
No, well, Kankamongol was a Dutch one that one of our previous interns actually used. Not sure if you're around for that guy, were you, Daryl?
No, never heard of Daryl.
Very interesting guy. Hey, Diego, you should make sure Daryl watches our stream.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's midnight. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be up partying at the moment.
It's not the weekend.
Yeah. So on the screen at the moment, I'm still chugging my way through. There's probably about 10 different elements that needed to see. You open it like this, you can see the material on the right is clearly broken. There's something not right about it.
Yeah.
And it's just
Plus it's got your head in it down on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Not that the audience can see that because this panel with all of us in it,
Fortunately
This
obscures
panel?
the...
with all of us in it, is obscuring the panel behind, which has Lincoln's head in it.
Oh yeah, the one at the bottom right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I must be almost there with fixing these. And the goal, once I've done this, is I'll have a particle effect that does a nice explosion.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to that.
I know. You need like a little remote where you can just fast forward it that fraction more.
No. You just run out of stream.
No, yeah, true.
Yeah. Then you just have to crack jokes and stuff at the end until...
Or we could
Until
just finish 5 minutes early. That also really would be alright.
No, it really doesn't. It's really not all right, because then...
Because then what?
Here
What
you
will happen?
can see... Yeah. Back to the particle emitter.
Oh, actually, that's looking quite good now. I can see explosion happening.
Yeah. And I'm going on the top and I'm toggling on and off. There's like a little view box at the top of each of those stacks. So you can see that as I disable some of them, right, most of them are disabled now, and I'm just turning one on at a time and going, basically reverse engineering this particle effect, seeing how it's plugged together, which bits I do and don't need, because for our explosion we don't necessarily need all the elements. For example, so yeah, you can see them shooting zombies.
You're a little distracted there.
It's very hard.
You get a bit shooty once you're in there,
It's
don't
very
you?
hard not to shoot the zombies while you're testing an explosive barrel. So
Oh, that's starting to look rather lively, isn't it?
yeah.
It's interesting the difference between just shooting them and nothing happens but they fall over,
And
then shooting them and things explode and light happens and boom and they all...
yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
In this case, we got a little bit more than we anticipated. I'm probably discussing with Ben right as this frame's running. Yeah.
Because not
There's-
just the barrels explode.
Well, yeah, there's two ways of making it, and the way that this particular blueprint was set up was that we used a destructible mesh, so that effectively the barrel mesh has already been broken up using Unreal's built-in destruction mesh system into pieces. It's sitting there, but it's actually already broken, and then
Yep.
as soon as the barrel explodes, it applies the physics and goes and actually throws out chunks of barrel,
Which is great.
which looks cool. But then what we hadn't quite figured out yet was how do you turn that off? So you'll see me shooting, all the barrels have been exploded,
But now you're
but
shooting
now
the debris.
I'm shooting the debris, and the debris's re-exploding. So it was a bit of an unexpected consequence of the way that I built the blueprint. So there was a bit of discussion about, okay, maybe we need to plug something into the blueprint that turns off that functionality as soon as it explodes, which could have been one way of doing it.
Yep.
In the end, decided to take a different route. I found a different tutorial that was a much more well-defined way of doing it.
So how do we do it?
In the end, we didn't use the destructible mesh.
Okay.
It's still much the same, but the pipeline's a little bit different. So now,
Do pieces still get thrown out and so forth?
not at the moment, but the explosion, I can show you after this, but basically the explosion still happens, but it doesn't throw debris out.
Yep.
And it was one of those trade-offs that when we actually looked at it, maybe we didn't need the chunks. That doesn't mean we don't.
I actually preferred the chunks in there, I think.
Well, that's what I was saying. It doesn't mean that we can't add them later, though,
No.
because with the current blueprint, what we could do, there's nothing to stop us later. As soon as the mesh explodes and disappears, you could, in theory, have our destructible mesh appear at that instance in time at the exact same location as the old one, and then instantly basically collapse and get thrown out by the physics. But for now, just to make things simple, we've eliminated that element. We've got the explosion, the barrel basically evaporates, and
I'd like to see pieces of barrel flying out and embedding themselves in zombies.
It's interesting, the destructible pieces don't blow them up, but the barrels did.
yeah, well, the destructible pieces won't have any physics like
Right, okay.
the actual radial damage. So that's kind of where it was getting tricky. At this point, I was testing and deciding I was probably playing with a lot of the audio as well.
And you still
Tried
have that debug text.
Yeah.
Can we please get rid of the debug text? It's really frustrating.
Right, so here's the blueprint, whether or not I keep it open on the screen long enough. That is, I think, the old version.
Okay.
We'll call it 1.0.
Okay,
Which we've
so
still
that's
got.
the
We
destructible
haven't deleted it. We've still got it, but and it might be that eventually some element to this blueprint we siphon out and pump into the other one. But the main goal was to get the radial damage. So that's kind of like a force emitter that as soon as it explodes, it goes out in a bubble, and we've got like a spherical area designated around the barrel that if a zombie is standing 30 centimetres from the barrel, it takes quite a massive hit to its health. If it's standing 1.5 metres, it takes much less hit. So it's got radial impact on it.
So hopefully it actually cuts some zombies in half as well, because we do have some demi-zombies that should come out of these things.
Yeah, well, in theory we could do all that stuff. I'm not sure how it would work with skeletons on that. That's one above my head, but we'll be able to check with the others.
Yeah.
I don't know how you go on with breaking their all their skeleton joints in an explosion.
Well,
Or
we've already
whether-
got the zombie and we've got a half zombie, so we just need to swap them in the infusion.
Yeah, you could fake it just by having one disappear and the other one appear.
Yeah.
And in the explosion dust, and out of the explosion crawls a half zombie.
Yeah, exactly. That's more or less what I was thinking. Can you double check me? Just make sure, because mine keeps dropping in and out. So I'm not sure if I'm getting messages or not.
No messages.
Right, on the screen at the moment you can see how I've dragged a box around, that grey box that's been dragged around those 4 or 5 elements, and
Yep.
I've written in the top exploding instantly, I think it says.
Okay.
Just above that, it's hard to describe. So basically this is the blueprint editor, and I'm switching between those tabs at the top. So this is the event graph where you kind of do the coding of what's actually going to happen. And this is getting closer to the final result. So the top branch that peels off is to do with, I'm trying to remember, the slow burn. So there's, like I said, there's the elements where once you shoot it, it starts burning. It's got to burn for the right amount of time to make gameplay interesting, then explode. And as it explodes, do the radial damage, which affects everything nearby. So that central area that I'm working at the moment is purely just the explosion. So once barrel gets to 0 health, it destroys itself, and it's got to play an audio track of the explosion. It's got to fire off the particle system emitter that does the little explosion. There's quite a bit to sort of feed in there.
And think of a subtly different way to do this.
How's that?
So first bullet should probably cause damage to the barrel, and at some level of damage to the barrel a fire starts.
Yeah.
And let's say that bullet actually applies enough damage that that's the case. And from then on, the fire or bullets actually cause more damage to the barrel.
Yeah, that does happen at the moment. But at the moment we've
And
got...
that means that it might take 5 seconds to explode a barrel if it's burning, but if you fire it again, it might only take 2 seconds or 1 second.
That's how it works at the moment.
Okay, I wasn't actually seeing that on this blueprint.
At the moment, what it is
Although it's hard to see from here, I
Yeah,
have to say that's pretty...
in the game at the moment, when you shoot the barrel once, that doesn't mean we can't change this. It's just a matter of tweaking numbers.
Yeah.
Shoot it once, it catches on fire, starts burning.
Yeah.
If you're bored and you don't want to wait for 5 seconds for it to explode, you just shoot it again and it goes boom
Okay.
or kablooey.
And sometimes in our game that might be... Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Blammo.
a timing thing, because you might, let's say you've got a ramp coming down here and you've got your barrel on the corner. You kind of guess, you shoot it and they're coming towards it and they might go past it quicker than you wanted, so you can just shoot it again and set it off
Yeah.
when they're right at it. Otherwise, you could have, depending where we end up placing barrels, but you could shoot 3 or 4 of them having all burning at different time periods.
Yeah.
And
And
then-
sometimes you might want to do that, but sometimes you might not. So sometimes you might be able to wait for that. You just wait for them to get to the barrel and shoot it again.
Yep.
But at other times you might only have 2 bullets and 2 barrels that need shooting. So
Or there might be,
you just got to really time it well in that case.
Exactly, it's sort of timing. So the idea is to add other sort of gameplay into it, other than, because there's only so long that people will play a game where all they're doing is shooting
Yeah.
zombies. There's got to be other stuff to make it a bit more challenging and interesting.
And I suppose we need some things like a grenade would probably blow up a barrel instantly, and a crossbow bolt wouldn't catch a light at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for now, just to get the thing in the game and working, what it is it's 1,000 or 1,000. Basically, when you fire the gun, it gives off 1,000 damage, and that's just an arbitrary number that been set back in the day. So what I've done is set the barrels to 1,001,
Okay.
which means once you shoot it, that fires off the ability for it to burn, but it's still got 1 of health left, and when it burns, it's burning 0.2 per second
Okay.
damage, which means it takes 4 or 5 seconds before it 5 seconds before it explodes, because it's got to get to 1,001.
Yeah.
So it's tying all of these.
And that does mean if you shot it twice, it would blow up straight away.
Yeah, exactly, on the second shot. So, but it's because within the blueprint, all of the parameters have been exposed. It's been set up with parameters like what's the health of the barrel, what's the burn rate, and how intense is the blast. And there's a couple other parameters which are all exposed within the blueprint, which means that when you place a barrel in a scene, you could easily just click on that barrel and go, oh, this barrel is actually giving out, instead of 50 damage, it's giving out 200 damage, so you can have one.
Yeah.
Not that we'll probably do that, but if you wanted to, you can, because those parameters are right there exposed. Instead of having to create a whole new blueprint, you can customize each barrel if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So that'll give us a bit of power with setting up gameplay if we decide we need. And it might be that we put graphics on a couple of different variants of the barrels. Maybe there's one barrel is, I don't know, from Blammo Mining Industries and it's dynamite, and another barrel might be just waste oil or something, which will have different explosive properties.
Yes, well, the waste oil would definitely be napalm, wouldn't it? That'd just burn all the zombies to skeletons, so there'd be skeletons coming towards you.
You can actually see this is our testing ground level, which is just one zombie, and you can throw any element in it. So I'm just going in and testing, because this is where we've got 2 different types of barrels, I think, by now. Yeah, that's the original barrel, which throws out chunks. And then I'm probably putting the 2 barrels side by side in the testing ground and just seeing how do they look. There you go, positioning the fire.
It's nice and burny.
And really just experimenting a lot.
And explodey.
Explodey.
And it took quite a while to get it to the point where it did everything you wanted. You'd play around a bit in the blueprint, and then you'd find that it was only burning for 2 seconds, and when it exploded the mesh wouldn't disappear. And I guess the thing with it is we're sort of learning on the fly how to use some of this stuff inside blueprints as well. So you'll get.
Well, as ever, I'm impressed that the artists get this far on actually doing things that would normally be programmer driven.
So the only downside of that is sometimes you take 3 steps forward and 1 step back, and 2 steps left. and then you start making progress again.
Well, thankfully we have programmers here that you can refer to as well if you do find yourself stuck.
It's quite handy because I can. You can see that one.
Reticule's off centre. Look at that. Oh, and you've still got
With
splody
this one,
pieces.
I shot the barrel and the flame's still there in midair. So, it's just getting everything in the right sequence and getting it all to flow. Like I was saying, it's kind of handy that I can turn around and I've got a programmer behind me, Ben, that I can usually, if he isn't too busy, he can take a minute just to have a look at what I'm doing and suggest a different way of doing it.
Yeah. So,
And sometimes it might even be a mystery to Ben because he's still learning some of the stuff with Unreal, whereas he might have been able to do it in Unity, but the terminology might have been slightly different.
yeah. But even so, for the programmers to go from the thinking of the programming language to actually seeing a blueprint as a set of exposed classes, fairly straightforward for them because they can probably still see it in their heads as a program.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what was going on here. I know there was something broken on the barrel for a while where I couldn't quite figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Barrel.
Yep, I can't work that out. I can't see it at all.
You can actually see my my Unreal, the app itself was crashing whenever I tested this specific barrel, and I couldn't figure out why.
Did you work it out in the line?
I'm just trying to see. I can't remember if I rebooted my machine, but I think there was something I'd plugged in the blueprint was actually creating like an infinite loop or something like that. It was taking exception to.
Okay. I'm looking forward to taking some time just to learn more about Unreal and its blueprints. There's an opportunity coming up soon where I'll get to do just that.
Cool.
Actually learn some stuff.
You're going to be in your element, really.
Yes.
Restarting the client again. Updating GitHub. Hopefully there's nothing exposed on GitView that is sensitive to have on a stream. Can't see any of the settings.
I would actually move this to the second screen.
Yeah.
Just so that we don't make any mistakes there, especially since we also have client stuff in GitHub from time to time.
Alright, so now I'm in the cave that we'll call the ramp again, testing. And there was quite a lot of testing with this because you'd make a very small change to something in the blueprint and it would sometimes have unexpected consequences in the actual game.
Try 'em with the crossbow. That's the first time I've seen the crossbow in the game.
Yeah, you should try it after this. I'll give you some barrels to shoot.
This is a day of firsts for me.
But the
A
thing
whole
is,
bunch I haven't seen.
Well, you have to have a look after this. The crossbows, so at the moment it's set up, you can roll the wheel mouse and the first click is obviously just brings the gun in your hand.
Mhm.
Roll it one more click and you switch to the crossbow and one more click and you get a teddy bear.
blown away with the
It's like a fairground
I
attraction.
know. I think it'd be cool if I could do some concept art of like a creepy teddy bear that's been stitched together. It's like a voodoo doll almost. I don't know.
That's funny.
yeah, so the crossbow looks really good, but the crossbow shouldn't be able to explode barrels. I don't
Oh
think.
no, and that stuff we can just add functionality wise. I don't think it'll be a big thing to disable.
But I think I know something interesting that could happen, but it would be a secret. We shouldn't probably tell anybody in the game, but The crossbow.
But now you're going to, right?
The
Oh,
crossbow.
awesome. No, stop. This should be a secret. Don't.
All right, it's a secret I'm not going to tell, but I will talk to you about it later because I think it's a really good idea. No spoilers.
This should be a secret. Nobody should know, but here it is.
I have
Fuck
to
yeah.
watch 50 hours of video to get to
Genius.
the point where I actually tell them this particular spoiler.
Yeah,
No,
that's
they
what
don't.
they do.
They just have to watch this one.
Yeah.
Duh.
Give away a part of the secret and at a random time in each of our next 5 Twitch streams.
Yeah. Watch them all to collect the set.
It's just like those things they sell at New World to keep kids interested. Not sell, they give them away. Like the My Little Garden veggie things and all that.
Yeah.
Teasers.
Yeah, it's not just throwing it out there.
But that is something we can do later on in these streams. As we get closer to release date, we can actually start giving away the locations of Easter eggs, but just as clues rather than the actual locations.
Yes, but you have to be kept a close watch on.
Oh,
So you don't go, this is a secret, we can't tell anyone. Here it is. Blah.
I know where some Easter eggs are, but I can't say. They're more on the 3D side.
Okay, so some of these Easter eggs I clearly don't know about.
That's worrying. So you could tell us, but you'd have to kill us, right?
Yep. They're so infinitely small that you'll never see them in the game, but if you actually zoom right in on some of the models, there's some interesting stuff.
This is what happens when you let an artist loose in the environment. Fuck me. Awesome.
Like you know, if you look on the back side of certain things, there might be like Gary was here, spray painted. You know.
Oh, help. Call 021.
I think my son and one of the other interns that we had at the previous Stickmen actually did that on a rock. They actually left their names on rocks in various places. Okay, so we're back to the
So
original.
yeah, this is jump back to this is the original cave, and this is where I was saying that originally it was a sort of a raised platform,
Yeah.
which was kind of nice, but the thing that wasn't great about it, sorry, my phone's just going nuts. Shut that up. Was that it was really just made out of existing assets from Epic, and the other thing was that it kind of something about it didn't quite feel right that you're climbing up the set of stairs to get to him, but then when you got to the top, the space was a little bit limited.
Yeah.
Whereas what we've gone with in the end, that you come down stairs to a fighting platform, which actually is about the same size, but the idea that you drop down that shaft and come out to a slightly bigger room for the fight is better because it gives you more sort of room to swing a cat.
Okay.
Whereas on that platform, you didn't have a lot of room for him to do his moves.
Clearly, teddy bears and cats are now weapons in the game.
You should be able
Take
to
him
throw
out with a cat.
Meow. That's your
Not
secret.
enough room to swing a teddy bear.
Was that the secret? I've given it away. You're going to have exploding cats.
Yeah.
Just don't tell the SPCA.
Lob a cat at. Actually, that crossbow works quite well as a one-handed weapon.
Scale might be a slight issue. I can show you after this if you want, but at the moment it looks alright, but it might look fractionally small.
It does look smaller than I expected. Yeah.
But it's the tricky part is it's fractionally different feeling in VR as opposed to on a 2D screen. When you actually have the goggles on, it feels, because it's up here, it feels a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing about the 2D screen is when you do put a weapon up front, you can't afford to take too much of the screen up.
No,
Because
it's quite a
clearly what
tricky
you're looking
balance,
at is beyond it. Yeah. So it might well be differentially scaled for VR and for non-VR. We keep saying 2D, but it's not 2D. It's still 3D on a 2D, surface basically.
So, this is testing, remember the 5,000 zombies?
Ah, yes.
I was
Seeing
down
how
in
many
my-
zombies we could do.
My little area that was it's very dark. Hopefully they can even see it on that screen,
Yeah.
on the Twitch feed. But in that little cave, basically I had the 3 spawn points, and I, out of interest, just jacked the numbers up to 5,000 zombies to see if it would kill our frame rate, having that many zombies running around.
And it was still responsive. That
It was
quite
fine,
a
yeah, it was
surprise.
running smoothly. It's like one of those YouTube videos you see where someone's set a dinosaur against 5,000 chickens, you know. Who's going to win? So,
Yeah, I've not seen any of those videos.
it's like game engine stuff where, I don't know, kids always bring them up, where they're just testing, I guess, AI characters. So you can pick anything you want, like a dinosaur or a chicken.
It's always got to be the chicken.
How many of each are going to fight it out to the death?
My money's on the chicken.
Yeah.
They're vicious little bastards if motivated.
Which was the
Beady red eyes. Peaky little things.
I think this video must have gone back to when we just imported the crossbow and we were testing it in the scenes.
Okay. So one of the things we don't have at the moment is the end result, the bolt actually being stuck in the zombie, right?
Yeah, no, that's at the moment it's much like the pistol.
But to see the bolts, we do actually need to do that. We need to actually make them bounce off walls, get stuck in zombies, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And I gather that we're not far away from having, I think Linda's close to to importing some stuff in for the actual animations as well. So I guess
very nice.
Won't be far away that we've got proper walking
That'll be
zombies.
a big step forwards once we've actually got the proper animations in. I think people are going to really appreciate that. And that will start to look more like the version that we're running with on June 6th for our demo.
On the screen now you can see my little cheat sheet spreadsheet. So as I think of stuff that I need to do, I just throw it in this little spreadsheet. Like make mushrooms emissive, decide, that's right, I know why we're testing that. I was discussing the crossbow with Sergi and we were testing it, but there was a slight issue around the lighting of it. With, the scenes have what's it called, a reflection capture, which basically does all the reflection on elements like the copper on the crossbow.
Yeah.
And there was a weird thing where the reflections weren't looking quite right in the scenes, and it turned out to be that at the player start where the player is spawned from, I had been placing a small light bulb above your head on super low intensity, and its sole purpose was that as zombies came right up in your face, initial testing, they were coming right up in your face and their faces were all dark, you couldn't even see them, and what you needed was just a tiny bit of background light so you could, as they got close to you, the last sort of half second you saw their faces. But of course that light was washing out all the reflections and nice stuff that was happening with your hand weapons.
All right. So what do we do about that now?
So for now, I'll have to discuss that with.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to fuck up your nice reflections on your teddy bear, would you?
Yeah, exactly. So it's something we'll debate later. There might be a different way to do what I was trying to achieve instead of just having a light bulb above your head.
Okay.
Maybe we have 3 spotlights and they're pointed front, left and right, and they're not actually, because a spotlight is more of a beam, maybe they're pointed out that way so that they don't actually hit your handheld weapons.
Yeah.
But they still will hit the faces of zombies that are coming close to you. Or it could be 4 spotlights or 8 of them, but they're just above your head, and their sole purpose is to illuminate faces as they get right up on you.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll contemplate that.
Indeed. But we'll contemplate it next time because that's us for today. That's us finished.
Good Lord.
So yeah, Brook, Margaret and Lincoln talking about the design and building of the end cave and some exploding barrels for a bit of fun. So we'll be back again tomorrow at 1 PM New Zealand Standard Time. That's UTC plus 12 for those that don't know. And every day we're here streaming the development of our game After the Light, a zombie horror game being developed in Unreal Engine. So we'll catch you tomorrow. In the meantime, we do auto-host some other interesting streams, so yeah, feel free to watch those. So catch you later.
So yeah.